Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the movies, TV, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zach Shevich, and joining me this week, as in every week, for your Emmy consideration, it's Arturo Zurita.
I'm just here looking at these Emmy nominations, and they're not bad. They're not bad compared to other years, but the nominations mean nothing. It's what wins. It's what wins, so we'll have to wait and see.
Everybody's second place when you don't win at the Emmys. We'll talk about these Emmy nominations in just a little bit, as well as some news about a potential new Quentin Tarantino movie. But first, we start this week the way we start every week on the Intercut. Art, what you been watching?
You know what it is. One of what some may consider a perfect trilogy. To put it amongst all the other trilogies that are out there. And remember, a perfect trilogy in movies.
Using the P word.
Perfect doesn't mean that it's flawless. Perfect means that you embrace all of it. And I think Planet of the Apes is one of those. We were talking about our boy Matt Reeves just the other day. Yeah. And this is a man who I truly believe knows how to craft a story. This is a man who I think with this third one. And did he do the first one? I forgot to check that up. I can't remember if he did the first one or not. But I know he did Dawn. I know he did this. He's done, if I'm not mistaken, Cloverfield, which near and dear to my heart. He did Let the Right One In, or the
He did the American remake, Let Me In, but no, he didn't do Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He took over at Dawn.
Who did Rise?
It's Rupert Wyatt.
Good guy.
Yeah. He's gone on to do The Gambler, that Mark Wahlberg movie.
Okay.
He's not Matt Reeves. He's not Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves is stock you want to buy in.
As I was going home, I realized, you know what? He is underappreciated. What's the bad Matt Reeves film?
I mean, yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week when you tried to get me to buy into his Batman trilogy.
His trilogy.
I mean, look, there's lots of people out there who don't like Cloverfield, but it is iconic and aside from just its campaign, is a very memorable movie that I think is significantly influential on horror movies that we've had in the last 15 years. But even a movie like Let Me In, where so many American remakes of foreign films are lambasted, even though people don't say that Let Me In is as good as Let the Right One In, they say it's close. I know Amy Nicholson thinks it's better, even. So this is a dude who's really great at finding the material in these different properties, whether it's a horror movie or a more intimate story. It's these action epics for the Apes trilogy. So I take it you did like War for the Planet of the Apes.
Boy, let me get to the moment I finished watching this movie, I was like, this is a biblical epic. It is a modern biblical epic. And
you tweeted
as I always
much.
do, I love watching interviews. And what's the first thing I hear Matt Reeves call it himself? We were striving to make a biblical epic. And I'm like, look at it. It's the perfect conclusion to the trilogy. I think a lot of people, I think the key to a great trilogy is when you look at all three movies and you consider them one. Almost every fan that I know of the Rings trilogies always says, I see them as a complete whole. And I honestly see the Planet of the Apes, and it's crazy because it's prequels.
Right.
I don't like that P word, prequels. I never think of this as a prequel. I think of this as a history lesson,
right?
If anything, because this is the history of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of like a assumption with a prequel that it's like somehow lesser than, because it's, filling in the gaps of the thing that's really good.
Kinda.
This is its own thing. It's almost a disservice to say, it's just the prequels to the
Planet of the Apes. Yeah. It truly is a historical lesson of what then becomes the Planet of the Apes that we knew from the old 5 movies. But even more so than that, what I'm saying, it's a biblical epic. Before I even describe why, literally at the end of the movie, without spoiling or anything, it is edited. The editing is completely different, and if you've seen Ben-Hur, if you've seen the 10 Commandments, it is edited like those movies. It is shot like those movies. It is drastically different in those final 10 minutes. And if you see it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But just in its story, I'm talking about, like, when the first one is Rise, it literally is. Look at it. You know how they always show you those charts. If you've gone film school, if you've seen a YouTube video on it, it goes, the rising action, the climax, the conclusion. That is exactly what Rise is. That is exactly what Dawn is. And that is exactly what War is. The conclusion of this arc for Caesar. And I honestly see them as a whole. For me, that goes Dawn, it goes War, and then it goes Rise. And that's not to say that any of these are bad. It's just the way that they come in. If Dawn is supposed to be the climax, it should be the best one.
Right.
If the one is the resolution, that the final one being the resolution, it goes that way, and then Rise, and it's perfect in the sense of you usually have a movie with substance, forgetting about the entertainment factor, and you have those movies that are entertainment, the big blockbusters that forget about the substance part. And you and I have talked about this in the past that. This is the perfect mix. When you have a movie that's like trying to get super emotional, trying to get really into the character side of things, it's usually an indie film, right? And the indie films don't look the greatest, and you can tell that it was on a very limited budget. And then when you get something like Transformers, which we all know what Transformers is, but they look amazing.
Yeah.
But like you're sacrificing in order for it to look incredibly amazing. That's all you're getting. Planet of the Apes. I have said this multiple times. You have said this. Some have argued that it should be Oscar material in the way that these apes look more real than the humans that are in there.
And their stories feel more real than some of the humans that are in there. You sympathize and empathize, and you get a full understanding of who these people, these apes are in this struggle. It doesn't necessarily... I think a lot of times in movies that are about warring factions, it kind of takes the simple route of these people are good, these people are evil. And with a movie like Planet of the Apes, it'd be so easy to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But this goes further.
Oh, definitely. One of the things, as I was thinking about it, I was driving home and I was like... And this is no spoiler, but trust me when I tell you this. I was like, yo... It's not just the physical war for the Planet of the Apes. I know I'm going to get a little pretentious here. That's the word people like to use. But it is the war inside of Caesar to understand that he needs to create the Planet of the Apes. One of the best things about a sequel, and especially it goes with the third ones. This was something that happened in The Dark Knight Rises, where I don't think The Dark Knight Rises compares to the first two at all. But what Rises does well is that it helps elevate The Dark Knight. When you see the aftermath of Harvey Dent and everything, I think what it does well is that it becomes sort of a booster for Rises. It makes the events in Dark Knight seem more important. One of the best things about War is that it makes all of the events from Dawn, the things dealing with Koba and everything, it shows you the repercussions of that. And some may argue, we've seen this already. But it has to, if it doesn't deal with it, then it makes the events in Dawn seem like, whatever. But it's still focusing on the events in Dawn and things that Caesar did that not only elevates that movie, but shows you that it's more than just a physical war. It is literally the internal war that he has to deal with to realize, some decisions need to be made. And we know they are because, 5 movies follow it.
Yeah.
But decisions that need to be made to lead to what really becomes the Planet of the Apes. It's incredible, dude. It's amazing. You were talking about the humans.
Yeah. Woody Harrelson.
Ooh. That's how excited I am. Woody Harrelson.
Keep your ears on.
It's a character. Yeah, I was like, there's a monkey in there. Or, I think it's a monkey. Another monkey who's played by Steve Zahn. He does something like that. That's... I don't want to spoil it. But Woody Harrelson, again, plays the villain in this movie. But he has substance to him. You may not agree with him. There is a point where they give him a very long speech. It's like a 10-minute speech.
Gets his Oscar monologue.
Oh, practically. And you're like, I'm with my boy Caesar, but you're making a little bit of... You're crazy, though. But you're making me believe in your craziness.
I mean, all the best villains in movies are ones that you can understand and potentially get behind their cause, at least to an extent.
Yeah, because, it's sort of like a revenge tale that Caesar's going on, and it could so easily just fall into that, but it becomes, again, because of the events in Dawn, a conflict of like, yo, Caesar, you a hypocrite, because you were all about not doing that in Dawn, and now you're realizing that war within you, is that something you need to do? And then how these revenge things go. Is he going to get the revenge that he needs? And the way that it plays out is beautiful. It looks beautiful. The fact, like I'm telling you, it's a biblical epic, and I love the way that... Reeves described it. This story arc, especially this final one, is what religions are made of. This is the Moses story that causes people to go back and believe in this religion. This is what the apes in the future will read about and go, yeah, this is the Abraham of the apes in a sense.
It's epic.
That to me, yes, is what makes this franchise so great. I'm just sitting there going like, honoring the elders. They kill us! You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. As you know,
you were with it on
Cornelius.
You were with it on a dramatic level, on an action level,
on a spiritual level. Boy, I adore this trilogy. I was watching it at a certain point, going, is this? I'm always super worried with thirds, because I'm very vocal about how The Dark Knight Rises broke my heart, and since then I haven't been able to love again. But this third one really just mended my heart again. It honestly, there's a point in it where I'm watching and I'm going, oh, okay, it's dragging a bit. Where it feels like you're in a concentration camp. It feels like the Hebrews in Egypt. It literally gets to that point, and it feels like it's gonna trudge along, and then you realize you have to go through that in order to really appreciate the ending. Kind of like Silence a bit, but Silence was one where I know a lot of people didn't feel it was rewarding.
Yeah.
It starts feeling like Silence where it's just bopping you over your head and it's depressing, but I think it's worth it at the end. One thing I will say in the political spectrum, there is a building of a wall in this movie, and this is something I have to get off my chest. This movie was written before, and he states it a lot, but I have already read the articles where people cannot enjoy the movie without making a political thing and saying, you see, this is exactly the movie we needed in the Trump era.
Right.
As we talked about with It Comes at Night. If the shoe fits, then sure, wear it. But it's not because of that.
Exactly.
This is a movie that years from now, there will be somebody else where you can attribute it to. If you're going to time travel back in time, you brought, I don't know, a laser disc of this movie, you can play it then as well. You know what I mean? It's not specific to that era, and that's what I think makes it well. If it was, then it'd be ugly. It'd be like, it's tacky.
It's that interesting thing where sometimes art reflects the times, and sometimes the times are reflected in art. You know?
Go ahead.
The Handmaid's Tale, I think, is a perfect example of this because although I haven't been able to watch the story yet, we have seen a lot of ads for it, and it's about this society that is very controlling of women and restrictive of women and takes away women's rights. And a lot of people are using this as sort of like this is analogous to what's happening in the Trump administration, but this is another show that was fully in the works well before he got into office. He had his run.
Yeah. And
also it was a show that a lot of people, when it was in development, a lot of people thought that this would be a show in the Hillary Clinton era. But it's always...
how it works, yeah.
It's really funny just because like sometimes the times just change, and that doesn't necessarily...
Hey, that's karma coming to get you right there.
People are upset. Sometimes it's just the times mold to what's going on. The times,
perfect.
Something's in the air and we feel it, but we're not necessarily reflecting it. And it's up to us as an audience to kind of look for it and see that. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes art reflects life, and other times it's life that ends up catching up to what you're making. And that's something that Matt Reeves talked about, and where they had already written it and they're holding the script and it's coming to life. That is scary, and I think that's what makes the movie so good on that level, if that's what you're looking for. But to me, it's all about the story arc for Caesar. I think it's beautifully done. There's a movie earlier on, I don't want to compare it to that, but I've already compared it to Moses. So if you know the story of Moses, I guess that kind of spoils it a little bit. But there's another trilogy that ended earlier this year about a certain character that we've loved for so long. And the way that wraps up, I think this equally, and I mean that, equally compares to that movie, and I love both of them, and they're both in my top 10 of the year.
There we go. I was about to ask if this is going to show up on your end of year list, do you think? So.
Oh, definitely. I've said this. Again, like I'm watching, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to... By the end of it, I'm like, how dare I have even considered not putting it on? The other two have been. Why would not this one be? I honestly, I know some people see them as blockbusters. It is way more than that. This is that perfect... I always talk about balance as the perfect balance of visuals, perfect balance of story, perfect balance of emotion. It may make you cry at the end of it. I refused to cry for an ape. But man, the fact that it even had me...
Where's your empathy?
Almost there. The fact that it had me almost there is... I have to give it to that. If a movie ever pushes you to almost shed a tear, then it's definitely worth it. I own the first two on Steelbook, both of them. So that shows you how much I love the movies, and I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. I wasn't able to check out War for the Planet of the Apes, but I know I will this weekend because I, like you, am a big fan of the previous two. I saw a different kind of monkey last night. I went to the Gorillas show in Philly. That was fun, but I'm not here to talk about that. I have been watching Take Me. It is a new film from the Orchard studio, and it's directed by Pat Hailee, who you may have seen in some things. He's in Cheap Thrills from a couple years ago. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. I got to actually talk to him a little bit at the Tribeca Film Festival where this movie had its premiere. It had a small theatrical release, but now it's available to stream through Netflix. It stars Taylor Schilling and Pat Hailee as well, doing a double turn as director and star. And it's a really interesting film in which Pat Hailee runs a agency that sort of works to create kidnapping experiences for their clients. Let's say that you just want that thrill in your life. Let's say that you think like if someone will shock you into not wanting to eat hamburgers again by kidnapping you and force feeding you hamburgers as they do to Jerry from Parks and Rec in the beginning of this movie. Pat Healy's service is there for you. He plans these organized kidnappings as kind of like a diversion for people. And then he gets a call from Taylor Schilling as a potential client, and it goes further than he's anticipating, but it leads to very, very touchy, strange situations. It's one of those comedies where you don't necessarily know who has the upper hand. They're kind of, it's largely just these two people, Pat Hailee and Taylor Schilling, sort of navigating the situation of she's hired him to do a kidnapping, and now he's trying to get through the kidnapping without necessarily having the whole thing blow up in his face. It's not the most hilarious movie. It's very dry in the humor, but it's got some truly awkward, unique, funny situations.
He's good at that.
Yeah, he's got this very awkward, and I almost feel he's like a more middle-aged Thomas Middleditch, just in his energy. But like the movie's only an hour and 24 minutes long. It's a great, fun little watch on Netflix. I'd absolutely recommend checking that one out. I was able to catch it a couple months ago and saw it again once I saw that it was available to stream. So hopefully you'll be able to check that one out.
Oh, I will. I think those are like the perfect movies to catch on Netflix. Those are the ones I like the most. The ones where it's like at the end of it, it's not like you're probably not going to remember it to be on your top 10 list, but Netflix movies to me are those ones that make you think just a bit, that you enjoy it more. If you would have seen it in the theater, it would have been okay, but seeing it at home, you're like, oh, this is the perfect place.
Exactly. It's not. Some of these movies aren't necessarily like you want to take you and your friends out and spend a lot of money.
But this is,
Take Me is a great discovery movie. It's like, what is this? And you put it on, and you're just kind of wowed by how interesting it is. It's not a huge movie, like I said. It's mostly just these two people talking to each other and navigating the situation. But it's really, really delightful. So I highly recommend Take Me on Netflix.
Good. I had no idea it even existed. So thanks for.
Of course, that's what we're here for.
And hopefully you guys now know too.
Yeah. But we move on to Yay or Nay, the segment where we give our approval or disapproval on the latest in the entertainment industry, and we circle back to your boy Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves continues running his mouth on this War for the Planet of the Apes press tour. He talked about potentially developing a Batman trilogy, which we talked about on last week's show, which you can probably click somewhere on the screen and watch. But now he's been talking about wanting to even do some more War for the Planet of the Apes movies. He was quoted as saying, "Future conflicts in this kind of epic journey may take us toward the 68 movie, the original 1968 movie, without never necessarily getting there. And these are not just conflicts between humans and apes." So, Matt Reeves potentially setting the deck for different types of War of the Planet of the Apes movies involving conflicts that may not be with the humans. Art, are you yay or nay?
He's done well, and I'm always worried about going that extra step too far. So I'm kind of in the middle, but to be decisive, I'll say yay because of his track record so far.
Yeah.
I want to say no because I don't want him to ruin it, but like I said, I'm not going to undermine someone who legit has not had a bad film. I'm curious to see what else, because there's still a huge gap in between before you get to there. I have liked the fact that they haven't like officially done one of those things where it's just like, boom, look at this is exactly from the first one. Look at this homage. They haven't done that. So he's had patience with it for 2 films. I feel he could still have it for more. And there's still a lot of stories to tell. The humans. He's saying it's not going to be like Humans and Apes, but there's still the whole element of why do the humans become slaves? There's still the whole element of how they end up expanding throughout the entire world, how it still becomes a planet. Because right now it's still California of the apes. People haven't noticed that.
Yeah.
They've been in California. Like, that's it. But I'm curious to see how that turns out. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to go yay on this too. We've talked about this. I kind of don't like all the talk of sequels and further mining this, but Matt Reeves is a guy who does a good job of bringing some other interesting aspects to these types of stories, and I like the fact that he's talking about going beyond just the struggle between apes and humans, that could potentially open this up for some new kinds of allegories and metaphors, and that seems to me like enough of a potential thought that it could be worth doing this. I mean, just to do more of the same, maybe not, but like you said, there's still more room to explore. There's still more story here. They've done a really good job at it so far, so I have no real reason to doubt them, at least with this franchise so far.
Yeah, it's like that selfish thing. It's like, I like the world so much, I want more of it. The same way I like Game of Thrones so much, I want to see what comes before, but you have that worried of, don't ruin it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Approach with caution.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino is in the news because he is getting together his latest project, another film for him to write and direct, this one centering on the Manson family, the cult family that committed several murders, I believe in the late 60s, early 70s in Southern California.
Yeah, around there, yeah.
Most notably, among their victims was the actress Sharon Tate, former wife of the director Roman Polanski. Tate's murder was one of the things that brought this huge amount of attention to the Charlie Manson case. Quentin Tarantino, in his putting together of this project, has apparently approached Margot Robbie for the role of Sharon Tate. This movie would apparently center on Tate's character, which is somewhat interesting considering that she's ultimately a victim of the Manson family, and that Tarantino is not centering on the killers themselves. So Art, are you yay or nay on Tarantino taking on the Manson family and centering his story on Sharon Tate?
Yes, because as far as I know, he has not made like a biopic. He's made alternate histories.
Right, like Inglourious Bastards would be the closest, but it's definitely not a biopic.
Yeah. Well, Kill Bill was a biopic, right? That actually.
The true story.
So yes, I believe he said he's only got 10. Right? That's what he says. Only 10. We're down to the final 2. He could be a liar. He could be a lying, thieving adulterer at heart, and he's gonna make more. But if it is only 10, we're on slim pickings here, and that means there's only 2 more. And I would want him to be something interesting and different. That's what I would say before even knowing about this project. So if I've said that, and now you're telling me this, what is more different than doing something that's more true to life? And I'd be very interesting to see how he deals with that. My only concern with this is that there have been movies like Michael Bay doing Pain and Gain, and
some directors maybe just aren't suited for.
Well, it's not just that; it's that it's a true story that the victims' families are still alive. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you deal with that while still being artistic.
Yeah.
And he already gets flack with the way that he does black films.
Mm-hmm. Black characters
and the language that he uses.
Yeah.
And if he were to hold back from that, then it wouldn't be a Tarantino film. So is he going to hold back from doing certain things in this movie that will not upset? And if he does, then it's really, you know what I mean?
Right.
Tarantino's
never a guy who's
going to limit himself.
Yeah, he's never marketed himself on subtlety. He is a big filmmaker that does big scenes and big action and lots of blood. I mean, yes. He doesn't just make a movie with Hitler. He shoots Hitler in the face. So, that does concern me too. And it's ultimately one of the reasons why I'm going to go nay on this.
Okay.
Tarantino maybe he's got some other tricks in his bag, but he's somebody who doesn't necessarily do nuance in his movies. And I can see a fun Quentin Tarantino style story in the story of these Manson murders. I don't know if I necessarily want to see his version of the Manson murder. I think that there's a lot of really interesting stuff surrounding that case. And if you're not someone who knows a lot about what happened in the Charlie Manson murders, I'd highly recommend the podcast You Remembered This. Did a whole season, a 12-part podcast just breaking down how Charlie Manson and Hollywood had a very strange relationship. But I just think that Tarantino's not the kind of guy who is going to compromise his vision to tell this story for all of the interesting things that are there. I think he's going to take what he's really interested in, which in my opinion is probably a lot of the violent aspects of the story, stuff I'm less interested in, and really hone in on that. I could see a version of this film being very disrespectful. I don't know what that necessarily constitutes, but I think he's a great filmmaker. I just think he's such an original voice that I'm not so sure where that fits in with this type of story. So I'm ultimately nay.
Oh, you convinced me. You're right. I'm nay. He's never done a movie that doesn't have violence. So if he has, and not just violence, over-the-top violence. So what's going to be the over-the-top violence here? Seeing him portray someone who actually was a real person die? Yeah, you're right. No, that's actually kind of jacked up. That's really jacked up.
It's a little, I mean, maybe he's got a different idea for this one, but I just couldn't really imagine it being done tastefully.
No. And then you're right, too. He's going to focus not on actually telling the story. It would be perfect for an FX series or an HBO miniseries, which I know you and I are always for, to really cover it. Heck, do a 30 for 30, even though it has nothing with sports, but that would actually
be Ezra Edmund's new thing.
Yeah, but no, you make a good point. If you're looking to actually, like, if I don't know that much about the case, I just know the spark notes of it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get that with Tarantino. Tarantino's going to overly emphasize on one aspect of it that he likes, and then Tarantinoize it. Yeah, you're right. Nah. It's not, I don't, yeah.
We'll see, though. I mean, he has yet to do a movie that's been, like, hated, I guess, so... I don't know. I'm
We'll see.
approaching with caution, as with the last story. Moving on, a bit of unexpected casting news. The Lion King has been putting together a really interesting cast. We've already talked about how Donald Glover has been approached for Simba, and James Earl Jones is involved. I don't know if we even mentioned on the show that more recently Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen were cast as Timon and Pumbaa, which I think is a pretty fun pair.
That's good.
The latest news is that John Oliver will be joining as Zazu.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to do any more explanation there. Art, yay or nay?
Yay. I want him, because Zazu does the news, I want him to do Last Week Tonight with Zazu. That'd be perfect.
Last Week in the Safari Tonight.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's such perfect casting. John Oliver... he hasn't done a lot of film acting, but I think he's actually very fun when he shows up. Stuff like Community he's shown up in. So this is great. This is a great kind of role for him. And it doesn't take him away from his show, which he's so excellent at. So yeah, I'm definitely yay on this too. That was a quick one.
It's dope.
R.L. Stine's Fear Street trilogy is being adapted by 20th Century Fox, which has commissioned director Lee Janiak to direct the series of films. Lee Janiak, which you may remember, the director of Honeymoon from a couple of years ago, a smaller horror movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see you don't got the poster no more.
It's fell
it's
down.
On the
it's
other
over
side.
There. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's an interesting strategy that 20th Century Fox is apparently planning to use. Not only will they shoot this trilogy back to back, much in the way that the Lord of the Rings films shot back to back, but they're hoping to release these 3 movies 1 month after another. This is going to be a different kind of strategy to series of films being released, where we're not waiting a whole year or several months. They want this to be more like the way that we experience television. They're going to look to try and put each of these films out in a sequence of 3 different months. So Art, are you yay or nay on this new type of release strategy for Fear Street trilogy?
In theaters.
Yeah, this would be in theaters.
Not streaming.
Not streaming. It's an interesting change of pace.
Well, I mean, Goosebumps was the last thing from Stine that was adapted to the big screen. I thought it was It's decent for what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. I don't know about Fox adapting it. I'm a little worried about it. The Honeymoon director. Honeymoon was an interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that dynamic of like, wow, you're taking what could be a very generic adaptation, getting someone with a unique vision. They may compromise it and it may be something boring. But what I'm saying yay for is that release strategy, because
Yep.
I've always thought it would be cool if someone released, and I didn't even think that close, just someone releasing a trilogy in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I've seen it done with music before, where they release stuff like that. The Weeknd's done that. He released one in the beginning of the year, the middle, at the end. I think we've seen some stuff with TV like that, especially when it comes to the web. But if they do that for movies, that'd be dope. However, I don't think it's gonna work. Because one, wouldn't that mean that Fox has to take up a slot and not release another movie?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how all of these negotiations with different theater studios work. They might have to do some different kind of plan, because I know the way that a lot of these movie theaters actually make money is not on the first or second week of release, but on the third, fourth, fifth, sixth week of release.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely going to be a unique marketing strategy
Because the
challenge.
first one's going to be playing when the next one comes in. How are they going to make room? And then on top of that, Fox, you ain't the only one releasing movies.
Right, or are there going to be some movie theaters that are playing all three at once so people can catch up or
how do you
watch
do
them all in a
that?
row? It's definitely an interesting strategy. The closest that I can think of is when Matrix Reloaded and then Revolutions both came out in 2003. I think it was in May and October of the same year.
Oh, for real? That happened?
Yeah. But that seems like... I mean, it hasn't been copied a lot. That's a 6-month gap, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's a bit bigger. The last one I remember, and I thought it was a complete... I don't want to say disaster, just... One, nobody really knew about the movie. The disappearance of Eleanor
Rigby.
You remember, because they had that one. It was from her perspective, his perspective, and then the perspective of both of them. Most theaters they took the one that was the perspective of both, which kind of ruined the experience. That one was sort of like they made that one for the people who weren't going to spend the 3 hours
and it's
watching
just not
all
the
of them.
same.
It's not the same. You're supposed to get it from both perspectives.
Yeah.
And it's good from that end, but theaters weren't going to play 2 movies, much less 3 of them. And I ended up watching the version that was just the combined version, which compromises on the vision of the movie. So Fox is a bit bigger, but I don't know how that's going to play. And then what month do you release it in?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing.
You have to release it on a slow month, and then how is that's going to fail your movie?
Yeah, I mean... Maybe this is like you stake out the 3 months leading up to Halloween or something like that, because that is kind of like a lot of horror movies are released in that area of August to October.
But now August, September, that's becoming the new February, dude, because February is not bad anymore.
Yeah.
So if that's when you're releasing it, then what are you telling me?
I mean, that's the thing. It's it's a really unique challenge. I am also going to go yay on this just because I'm interested in people trying to break the mold of traditional Hollywood releases. I think this is, for me, if you're going to do a movie that is so clearly meant to be followed by another movie, I don't want to have to wait a year and a half. Avatar was a decade ago. Like, what is the point of this stuff? So it's cool that they're trying to take this break away. I don't know if it will work practically, but just from an audience perspective, I think it's cool. If I can find these movies, I'm really down with this idea.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting experiment. So I'm curious to see what else they do. We're running out of time for yay or nay, so we're going to get into some rough cut movie news. Just quick yay or nays on these, including the news of the Bumblebee Transformers spin-off movie. It has started to cast some young Hollywood talent, including Jorge Ledenborg Jr., who was in Spider-Man Homecoming, as well as Hailee Steinfeld, which seems like an odd move for her. But there's a bunch of young Hollywood actors who have now been cast in this film. Art, yay or nay on that, increasing your interest?
Yeah, Hailee Steinfeld ain't enough to make me do it. I like her, she's cool, but if Jorge is the dude who was the bald one in Spider-Man Homecoming?
I think so.
No. Okay, doesn't matter, it's still a no to me, so...
Yeah, I'm nay on it too. I mean, I don't see any of these Transformers movies. I don't see any reason to watch this Transformers movie. It's the actors alone aren't going to get me there, especially if Jason Statham, Mark Wahlberg, and all the people who are in the regular Transformers franchises can't get me there either. Kermit the Frog performer Steve Whitmire was fired by Disney after 27 years of performing the famous green puppet. There's no official word, I believe, on his replacement art, yay or nay, on the changing voice of Kermit the Frog.
Oh, no. First of all, he's classic. Second of all, I want to comment on this because I don't know if he did something, so I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I mean, we're commenting with only knowing scant details. I mean, I'm going to go nay as much as I feel bad for saying. I don't want to see anybody get fired. But, let's just think about it practically. Kermit is the face and voice of the Muppets franchise. He's kind of the most important figure. And the Muppets have had a not so great past couple of years. What was the movie they did with Ricky Gervais and Tina Fey that kind of bombed? And that TV show lasted, I think, a season and a half. So maybe they're just looking for some innovative approach to Kermit. I mean, he's had a long time. I don't know. I don't want to be an asshole, but I'm going to be a little bit of an asshole and say no.
Okay.
And also going to Netflix, we've talked about Martin Scorsese's upcoming film, The Irishman, but he's rounded out the cast with a few familiar names, including Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel, and Bobby Cannavale.
Ooh, no, yay. That sounds like the next generation right there. I'm all yay on that.
Yeah, I mean, Scorsese has worked with these people before. He knows what he's bringing. This sounds like the kind of guys you need for a classic Scorsese hard-edge movie.
I like adding Bobby in there. That's good.
I'm all for that. All right, we get to our topic of the week with last week's announcement of the Emmy nominations. A few of our favorite TV shows were lauded with several nominations, including stuff like Atlanta, which we both love, and Westworld, which we both love. And then a few shows that people were surprised to see not get as much love included some stuff like Transparent, Leftovers, a lot of interesting snubs, and a lot of interesting nominations. What are some of the categories that you really liked? What actually you think the Emmys got right this year?
Like I say, I'm never too concerned about... Because the thing is, I don't watch too much TV. I'm usually catching up. I'm still catching up from last year's Emmys. Emmys is usually the point where I'm like, oh, so those are the shows. Okay. And then I put them on my list. It's been a year, and I'm just adding more from this year, and I still got some from 2013. From what I have seen, I'm a big Westworld fan. And I'm hoping that Westworld gets some love. I believe it got some for the Golden Globes just a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to. I'm hoping that it gets something during here, so I'm looking for Westworld. I do think that The Crown is going to get a lot of love, because that was big for Netflix. What I like the most is the fact that Netflix, Hulu, Amazon are taking over a lot more. Not so much Amazon this year, but Netflix and Hulu got a bunch of stuff on there. But I'm an HBO, I get fanboy if you want to call it that. And Westworld is my favorite show of last year, one of my favorite stories last year. So anything Westworld, I'm for.
Yeah. So in the drama series category and the comedy series category, out of a combined 14 nominees, 5 of them are from Netflix, and I think 3 of them are from HBO. There's only 3 here that are even on network TV. So that shows you how much the times have changed, how much audiences have shifted to those streaming platforms. Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale also got into drama series. For me, I think the nominations were pretty interesting and got some love to a lot of good shows, although it does the thing that I get frustrated with for the Emmys every year, in that sometimes nominations get a little bit too grouped around the same few shows.
All the time. Why is Veep always nominated? No offense to Veep. I've seen a couple episodes. Not my thing, but dang, come on now.
Yeah, Veep is a big one with the Television Academy. For me, some of the categories that I liked seeing the reactions to were comedy actor, where they made room for Aziz Ansari, Zach Galifianakis, who's really great on Baskets, a show that not a lot of people watch. Jeffrey Tambor got in there for his always great Transformers performance. But our boy, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, securing that acting nomination for Atlanta. I mean, look, the thing is, I actually don't know if he is
The best one.
Yeah, like he's kind of not doing a whole lot on that show. I think he's great in terms of his writing and directing, and I think Lakeith Stanfield and Brian Tyree Henry are both doing excellent work in supporting roles. He's mostly the straight man on this show, but I'll give it to him.
I hope Atlanta gets a lot of love like it got at the Golden Globes, because that really gave it a lot of attention. I hope he wins, gives another shout out to Migos, and it just explodes even more.
So something else that I kind of liked and found interesting, that in Variety Talk series, this was the first year that Jimmy Fallon wasn't nominated for an Emmy in 6 years, which
for that.
I think it's good. It shows the strength in late night. You look at the nominees: Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, Last Week Tonight with James Oliver, Late Late Show with James Corden, Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel Live are all doing really well. Bill Maher's in there too. He's gotten a lot of attention recently. So I think that's interesting. It's also interesting to note that Trevor Noah still hasn't cracked this category after The Daily Show had won this category for 10 years in a row. Trevor Noah still doesn't have a nomination. And another category that I wanted to single out was the voiceover performance category. This is a somewhat new category. This is, I believe, only the 5th year that they've even had the category. One of the things that's sort of interesting, if you look at the history of the voiceover performance, for whatever reason, they haven't nominated the same person for the award more than once, except Seth Green has been nominated twice for Robot Chicken, and Seth MacFarlane has been nominated every single year for Family Guy. Whatever, that makes sense. But this year's nominees was a very interesting bunch. D. Bradley Baker from American Dad, who voices the Fish Klaus, I think his name is. Kevin Kline from Bob's Burgers, who voices Mr. Fischoeder. Kristen Schaal, but not from Bob's Burgers, from BoJack Horseman for voicing Sarah Lynn. Mo Collins, who's on F for Family, she does a few different voices on that show, and Nancy Cartwright from The Simpsons, who got her second nomination. I think this is always a really interesting category that singles out some of the most fun voiceover performances on TV. I love that Mo Collins got in here for F for Family. She does the voice of Ginny on F for Family, the one who goes, Sue Murphy, if you remember that. But yeah, it's just a cool category that recognizes some of the people that I think have the most unique voices in animation. Yeah, anything? I guess. Any other categories that you were kind of confused by, or?
Not so again, because I haven't seen the other shows. I guess I can only root for the ones that I've seen and I really liked. I do hope that, because I know they have like a TV movie category. Yeah, you have Netflix's Black Mirror in there.
Yes, San Junipero was the episode that they nominated for best.
Which
TV
was the episode?
Movie. San Junipero, the one where it's sort of 80s set, the lesbian love story.
Oh, that was a good one. I would have gone
Mackenzie
for
Davis?
The first one.
Oh, with the Bryce Dallas Howard one.
Yeah, I would have gone for that.
Yeah, both of those are really, really good. I actually think my favorite episode from that season, maybe just because I'm super dark, is Shut Up and Dance, in which they extort that young boy who's watching porn, and it has that pretty dark twist at the end.
No, that was the most insane one. That was crazy. Yeah, I think that was too dark though.
Yeah, I think that's too dark.
Was crazy. Yeah. That one was crazy.
But also in the television movie category, you had a Dolly Parton movie. You have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which was that Oprah Winfrey movie from earlier this year. Sherlock, an episode of that, and The Wizard of Lies, that HBO movie with Robert De Niro. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff here. I was a little disappointed that something like Great News or The Good Place, some newer comedies, didn't break in here. I know a lot of people were upset 13 Reasons Why didn't get a nomination. I'm kind of glad it didn't. I'm a little surprised just because it was such a phenom.
Are you sure it didn't just miss the date?
I'm pretty sure they submitted themselves, because I remember reading some stories about the actors submitting themselves for roles, guest actor.
Okay. Hey, if they didn't, I'm all for that, and I'm gonna laugh at all the fans who are sending tapes to the Emmy jury trying to get there. I'm gonna send them a tape because the last season of Game of Thrones, I think, deserved one, and it didn't. And the only reason I'm not complaining is because Westworld went in there, and I'm hoping Westworld can probably take it.
Wait, but does Game of Thrones miss the cutoff? Because
they missed the cutoff.
Yeah, Game of Thrones missed the cutoff.
But that doesn't mean I can't send him a tape.
It should just be perennial nominated.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't they just give Bryan Cranston the Emmy again? They seem to do that every
Might
time.
as well.
So some categories that I was confused by. I think both supporting actor in a comedy and supporting actress in a comedy are surprisingly weak fields, not because these people aren't talented, just because I don't know why they select some of these people. So Modern Family, which I think will just get nominated until that show's finally pulled off of the air. You know, it used to
Even after, probably.
it used to dominate these awards. It has this record for, I believe, most wins for comedy series ever, aside from getting nominated for comedy series again. Ty Burrell got nominated for Best Supporting Actor again.
I do like Ty, though.
I like him too, but it's
I like
every
this
year
one too,
with
but you're
this
right.
guy.
It gets so crazy to a certain point, yeah.
You know, at a certain point, they stopped nominating the Office people who would get nominated every year and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also in this category, Alec Baldwin for Saturday Night Live, which, okay, I solid Trump impression, bro, but is that really
over and over and
is
over?
that really what it takes to get a supporting actor nomination? Just
Well,
one popular impression?
I guess, and you and I have talked about this before, because you've talked about when you've gone to like comedy events and stuff like that, and the jokes aren't really jokes. They're just like, hey, here's a political joke. It's not really funny, but you agree with my political stance. Ha ha ha.
It's clapter, yeah, clapping, approving, but not laughing.
That's not comedy. People
Yeah.
need to understand that's not comedy. Doing the same thing over and over again just because you agree with it, that's not a joke. No. And I guess that comes to like the biggest thing for me is going to be the event itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be just the night of
Trump jokes, Trump impressions?
We're done.
Yeah.
Man still got 3 more years, but we're done. What else? I'm hearing repeated jokes. Listen, I'm all for comedy. But what upsets me more than an anti-PC joke is a bad joke.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of hearing bad jokes. Like, you guys tried so hard with all these jokes that you're done. You should have saved it. You're out of stamina. 3 years done. Every other award show's already done it. And if the Emmys does it again, I don't know, man. It's just...
Yeah, it's definitely a very strange nomination, particularly considering how few people actually do get nominated for the work on Saturday Night Live.
what annoys me is who's hosting it.
Who's hosting the Emmys this year? I forgot.
He's also nominated Stephen Colbert. If I'm not mistaken, let me look it up here real quick because it says Stephen Colbert. Go to Stephen Colbert's YouTube page and just scroll down.
Yeah,
it's all just Trump stuff.
material.
And I like that guy. I was super happy that he went over there, but literally that's all he does, and that's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely would like. It'd be nice to see some more variety, especially.
It
That's
doesn't
the
matter
thing
what
that's
side
strange
you're
to
on.
me.
It's just.
Yeah, that's the reason I don't
People need to
like
understand that, yeah.
the Alec Baldwin nomination. I think it's a solid Trump impression, and I don't have a problem
Sure.
with his bits.
And it's funny.
It's one thing he does. And, you know, when you look at the people who've been nominated in this category, it's people like Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon. These are people who do millions of amazing impressions. Alec Baldwin just comes in and
For recycling. Yeah, what is this?
so other people in the supporting actor in a comedy series category, I'm not as against these nominations. Tony Hale and Matt Walsh for Veep. Again, you know, Veep gets nominated for a few of these every year, whatever, it'll just happen. Titus Burgess for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Great, he's great on the show. And Louis Anderson for Baskets, who won last year. He's still great on that show, so I don't have any problem with that. I just think it's strange that we get so many repeat names in this category when there's so many fun shows on TV. I would love to see somebody like Eric Warheim get it here for his work on Master of None. Little Dude and Big Dude. Mm-hmm. You know, even or somebody like that, or John Michael Higgins on Great News would be a great pick for Ted Danson on The Good Place. Great pick for supporting actor nomination.
I mean, it's an award show. You know how they work. It's how you campaign. It's who you know, and it just So
what's even worse though is the supporting actress in a comedy series category. 3 Saturday Night Live women: Vanessa Bayer, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon. 2 transparent women: Judith Light and Katherine Hahn. They're both great in the show, but it's a lot for one show. And Anna Klumsky from Veep. So this is Veep and Transparent, which are perennial nominees, and 3 Saturday Night Live people who, granted, I like, but that's a lot for this show. That basically means, like, if you're a supporting actress on any new comedy, like, good luck. You don't even have a chance. We're not watching you. We don't care. We're not going to mention you.
I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, they're so concerned on the dramas and everything else, and then when they get to this, they're like, who we got? Saturday Night Live. All right, just add those three. At the it's like they're not like you would say scoping out the best talent. Some of these categories just feel like they're just filling in the spots with whoever's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah. So, drama actress, I think one of the interesting things is that Winona Ryder ended up not getting a nomination for Stranger Things. The nominees are Viola Davis from How to Get Away with Murder, Claire Foy from The Crown, Elizabeth Moss from Handmaid's Tale, Kerry Russell from The Americans, Evan Rachel Wood from Westworld, and Robin Wright from House of Cards. It's a little tough. I don't know. Who would you get rid of in that category for Winona?
That's pretty solid. Probably nobody. I'm not the biggest fan of Stranger Things, if some people don't know. I think she's good in it. I think she's one of the best parts of Stranger Things. Man, I haven't even seen all the episodes of The Crown, but I would not get rid of her.
Yeah.
I'm not. Are you telling Viola Davis? I'm not.
I'm not telling her to get off that stage. I mean, for me, I guess I go Robin Wright, but she's Hollywood royalty at this point. House of Cards is a perennial nominee at these things. I don't know.
She's scarier than what's his name, Kevin Spacey. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. She just didn't make it. But that shows that it's a good category, though.
Yeah.
That shows those are good shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's good about the Emmy nominations this year, at least in comparison to some years past, is that it's shown that there's a lot of really good TV. Even the nominations that I'm not thrilled about, they're from solid shows for the most part.
Yeah.
Or they're solid actors. I don't really care that Robert De Niro got nominated, but Robert De Niro appeared in an HBO movie. You're gonna nominate him. I don't know.
They always do that. If Al Pacino or Robert De Niro are appearing in something, they just
out of default give them the nomination. But yeah, what about so one of the other big appearances from the night was Big Little Lies.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, have you not seen Big Little Lies?
I have not. I'm telling you, I'm slow with TV
yeah, you are
shows,
slow with these.
So it's dope, right?
Yeah,
I
it's
keep
very,
hearing
very
so many
good.
things. Okay.
It starts not. It doesn't necessarily look like it's going to get as good as it does, but it's very, very good.
That's exciting.
And a lot of people were kind of not so sure what they would end up doing because there's so many good actresses in that show. How do you campaign them? Ultimately, both Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon landed Best Lead Actress nominations, while Shailene Woodley and Laura Dern ended up in Supporting Actress. I think that was a good resolution for that situation because Laura Dern is so good on that show. I hope she ends up winning the category. But yeah, I would catch up with that too. Jean-Marc Vallée, the dude who did
I know.
Wild, he got a directing nomination too.
Oh, dope. Cool.
Yep. So yeah, those are most of my thoughts on the Emmys. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of interesting pop-ups, and definitely gives you an idea of what shows to be looking out for. I know I got to catch up on The Handmaid's Tale and The Crown because those got a bunch of nominations. Our maybe not our girl. I like her. Ann Dowd from Compliance got 2 nominations at the
Margot
Emmys.
Robbie 2.0.
So yeah, any final thoughts on the Emmys?
I said Margot Robbie. I mean, character actress Margot
Martindale.
She looks like her.
I knew what you meant.
Every time I see her in The Leftovers, I'm just like, character... Oh, no. Yeah. The fake. Or is it? Is it character actress Margot Martindale?
Martindale's best role ever.
Ann Dowd.
Her best role is as Ann Dowd.
It's pretending to be Ann Dowd as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still catching up. My thing is just to catch up on the shows from the 2013 Emmys, and then eventually I'll get to these. But yeah, Big Little Lies is one that I'm looking to catch up on. Fargo is one that I'm looking to catch up on because Carrie Coon got nominated.
She did. Not for The Leftovers, which a lot of people thought she would.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were also saying that Mary Elizabeth Winstead was a snub for not getting nominated for her work in Fargo. She's apparently very good this season. We don't know because we haven't watched it.
Oh, I've seen some scenes with her, and she's pretty good in it.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
So that's most of our thoughts on the Emmys. You can follow both of us on Twitter, where I'm sure we'll be updating you as we watch these shows and as we watch the awards themselves, which are not for a couple months, I believe.
Yeah, they always take a while.
So lots of stuff to catch up with us on. We move on to our final category of the day. It is New to See, where we look at what's in theaters, on streaming, and what we recommend you watch. Starting out with the big release for this upcoming weekend, Christopher Nolan back in theaters, basically doing whatever he wants with this Dunkirk film, this action war adventure epic, which isn't as epic as a lot of his films at an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. So directed by Christopher Nolan. Supposedly he wanted to go with a lot of unknown names to help with immersion, yet still...
Yeah, like Harry Styles,
Kenneth
and Tom
Branagh,
Hardy.
Mark Rylance. Yeah, no big deal.
Up-and-comers.
3 Oscar winners. Or
Up-and-comers. Yeah,
nominees,
yeah.
whatever. I'm super excited for this movie. I mean, we trash on Christopher Nolan a lot, I think, in just like the film world, but this dude is a really good director.
I was having this discussion the other day about how it's I think what has caused this Christopher Nolan hate is the Christopher Nolan fans
Yes.
who feel
Yes.
that they are the greatest film nerds, but they don't actually watch a lot of cinema. They just watch Christopher Nolan and it makes them feel smart, and that annoys the actual like film buffs. You know what I'm talking about.
I had a slightly critical review of Interstellar a couple of years ago when that movie came out, and I had people commenting just the vilest stuff about me, saying stuff like, "Oh well, Dark Knight and Inception are hands down 2 of the top 50 films of all time."
Yeah.
That's a really weird, arbitrary number, bro. Like, maybe you should watch some more movies and get back to me.
50 of all time.
Yeah.
You tell your girlfriend that, you know what, you, in the woman of my life, you're top 50. What?
Get
Do
out.
they know how that works? That means
Yeah.
that they could be number 50, you moron.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. Anyway, but yeah, it's just this aggressive fan base he has that makes it hard
that's
to
what
fully
hurts.
embrace him.
That's what hurts a man who's doesn't even have the social media presence
Yeah.
that could destroy him. It's not even himself.
Yeah.
He's so private. It's the fans who watch him.
But I am super down to see this movie. I'll be trying to check it out in 70mm.
I'm intrigued. I feel like it's gonna be boring.
Yeah?
I don't feel like the 70mm is worth it because I dropped the 30-something bucks per ticket for Interstellar. Didn't think it was worth it. This one's it's pretty short. It's the shortest movie almost to date. That's
Yeah.
kind of like a big release.
Yeah, it's longer than The Following, I guess.
Yeah,
But
and I've seen so many war films. I don't know what else he could do. It's true story based, kind of. So
yeah, I just have a lot of faith in him. I mean, as I think
I do
we've talked
too.
about in the past, Memento is one of my favorite movies.
we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah,
So I just think this is a dude who knows how to make epic feeling things on the screen. He knows how to
Definitely.
just sweep you up in an adventure. So I'm with it. I'm going to be there. I'm not necessarily planning on it being on my top 10 list, but I do want to see it.
How dare you?
Valerian
top 50 at least.
of all time. Also out this weekend, for those of you who want to see something not as realistic as Dunkirk, Valerian and the
about?
City of 1,000 Planets.
You don't know that, all right? Dunkirk is about the past, but this is about the future, all right? Valerian is just yet to happen.
This one's directed by Luc Besson, who you may know from his work on the Transporters movies, or on Lucy, or on The Fifth Element. It's also, as we've mentioned previously on this show, the most expensive movie ever produced in France.
Yeah.
This one comes with Dane DeHaan, Cara Delevingne, and Clive Owen in the cast. My boy Scott Menzel is all over the trailers for this. He's got like 4 quotes on the trailer.
Right, good for him.
Talking about it's like the best summer blockbuster since Avatar.
Someone
good-
has to. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So good for you, Scott. Are you interested in seeing Valerian?
Absolutely not. But my girlfriend likes The Fifth Element, so I mean, I guess we'll be watching it. I
mean, we talked about this a little bit, and we were divided on it because I'm excited for this movie, mostly because I think just the way it's colorful and the way it's designed, it at least looks different to me than a lot of these types of movies.
It looks like Jupiter Sun into me. But, yeah,
I
do like Dane DeHaan. I'm a Dane DeHaan fan, and I'm just disappointed year after year after year that they do my boy like that. And Cara Delevingne, I like her too. I have no problem with her. I like the eyebrows, but I want to see them in a good movie.
Yeah. Maybe this one, maybe.
Maybe me.
I can't. Also out this weekend is Girls Trip.
Now we're talking.
This one is with Regina Hall, Queen Latifah, Jada Pinkett Smith. It is a fairly similar looking movie to Rough Night, but with an predominantly African American cast. Have you heard much about this one? I haven't really.
I don't think they kill anybody.
Yeah.
But this looks. I can't remember the other movies from last year, but they've had movies like this as well. I forget what the other one was. Patton. I forget her full name. You know what I'm talking. You know
about.
exactly. She was the flight attendant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this movie. Baggage Claim, I think, is what it was called.
I think so.
That sounds like. I don't know if but that sounds like exactly what it would be. it kind of looks. The trailers look similar to this. It seems like the same thing. Oh my goodness, we went out, we partied. I don't know.
Baggage Claim was somehow 2013, so you're getting your years really mixed up.
Did I say last year?
Yeah. But yeah, no, we get.
Was
these
that the
movies...
movie though? Is that the movie?
Yes.
What's the actress's name?
Paula Patton.
Paula Patton.
Yeah.
She's beautiful, but I was not gonna watch that movie. And this one, I don't know. It's got a 92%. Maybe 5 people have seen it. I don't know. But
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter kind of excited about this one. I don't really.
That's good though.
I'm not super into it, but I don't have to be. I mean, it's called Girls Trip. It's not
perfect.
for me.
Thank you. It cannot be a good movie for the people who want it if it's being tailored to us. Don't be tailored to us. Be tailored to the people who can have it on their top 50 of the year. So.
And one more movie coming out in theaters this weekend that I'm excited about is Landline. This is the follow-up to Obvious Child from director Gillian Robespierre. Jenny Slate is starring in it, as well as Jay Duplass and John Turturro. I believe this one premiered at Sundance.
Yes, it did.
Did you see it there?
No, I missed it. I went to go see A Ghost Story instead, which is, I believe, getting a wider release this time around. So I missed this one. I heard the humor was like Obvious Child, and we're like, it's funny, it's snarky, but at the same time, it's very. Some people are not going to like some of the stuff that they say.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for that alone. I have a weird relationship with Jenny Slate. I don't have a relationship with Jenny Slate, but from a viewer's perspective, first time I saw her was in Parks and Rec. Hated her, despised her, couldn't even watch some episodes as her as Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And then I saw her in everything else, and I'm like, oh, you're pretty. She's funny.
Yeah.
And
I hate her role as Mona Lisa. I don't get it.
I really hate it.
Yeah, but she's so good in Obvious
She's so
Child.
good at everything else. Yes.
Yeah. She's got a really warm, bright presence that I think is really fun to watch. I'm excited to catch up with Landline because I thought Obvious Child was a really great spin on the romantic comedy that handles some modern day
elements,
issues in a really, really good way. It's almost similar to like we were talking about with that movie To the Bone last week, in that it can take something as heavy as anorexia and deal with it in a way that's like, this is how everyday people handle it. I think Obvious Child was that movie for abortion.
Good. If this movie Landline is anywhere near as good as To the Bone was, which I thought it was, then I'm gonna check it out. Is it streaming or is it theaters?
Theaters this weekend.
Oh.
Yeah. You mentioned that A Ghost Story is expanding.
Yes. So everyone go see it so you can hate it, and then go comment on my video that should be out. So you can go check it out.
This might be the most divisive movie of the year on film Twitter, at least.
I'm trying to see. I wouldn't say Get Out was divisive. It was just the loud little minority that really didn't like it. Compared to, if you can think of any divisive films, the first one that comes to mind is It Comes at Night.
Oh, that was super divisive.
If you thought that was super divisive, no. This one, this is the one.
Yeah, this is going to be.
I cannot wait.
The reactions are going to be really interesting to this one. Maybe we'll get a little time to talk about it next week on the show.
Oh, we will talk about it. It was one of my favorite Sundance experiences. I wasn't the biggest fan of the film. Again, it's one of those films that I enjoyed the more that I listened to the director talk about it and everything else. And again, I'll have a video for you to check it out.
You seem to be in the rare camp that didn't love it or hate it.
Okay, look, you know how they always say, he's like, this is the movie that you're either going to love it or hate it. There's no in between.
Yeah, you are the in between.
And then the person saying that is in between. But listen, I worked hard to get there, though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking. I'm talking about, like, when you finish watching the movie. This was an experience at Sundance where legit audibly you heard the people going, what an experience, what a cinematic experience, and then other people going, BS. Like, they were angry.
I can't wait to see this.
Just upset. I can't wait to see the reactions. That was the first time I said I didn't care about seeing it again. I cared about seeing the reactions. I was like, please come out as soon as you can. But it's interesting, and I've learned I enjoy it more that I've studied it, and the visuals were something that I liked since I watched it. It's a beautiful looking film. So, know that when it comes on, it's a box. The sides, there's nothing there. The whole movie is a box.
Yeah, it's shot in an interesting ratio.
1:3:1. It's interesting. You'll see why.
New to streaming, Netflix today, the day that this podcast drops, July 18th, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. We mentioned that last week. It'll finally be available for y'all.
Cool.
Not any really interesting things coming to Netflix for the rest of that week. We also
That's
mentioned
big for
it is
people who
big.
want to see it.
It is
Just
big.
watch the sequel, A New Hope. It's better.
We also mentioned last week that Amazon is getting Miss Sloane on July 19th. We're still kind of mixed on catching up with that one.
Yeah.
Hulu on July 19th gets the 2012 film John Dies at the End with Paul Giamatti. I have a cousin who
Oh, well, great. You ruined it. Well, am I going to watch it now?
This film's actually supposed to be kind of weird and trippy.
Did you see it?
No, I haven't.
I saw halfway through when it was on Netflix. If it's still on Netflix, I don't know. I just knocked out. It was weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I have a cousin who's a fan of it, but like it's always seemed a little bit too weird for me to approach.
I've never finished it. I don't know if he actually dies at the end. But
and a different streaming service, Shudder, which not everybody out there knows. Shudder is a streaming service
blowing up.
It's for horror movies exclusively.
Yeah.
Now, they've got a whole range of horror movies, some very camp ones, some classics, some more modern ones that are a little more artsy. It's a really cool service if you're a fan of the horror genre, and they are even getting a little bit into film distribution next week
That's
with the
dope.
July 21st release of Kuso. You might have heard this when you were at Sundance. This is the debut film from Flying Lotus, the awesome DJ, if you have heard of his music. This is a horror apocalyptic film set in a post-earthquake Los Angeles. Did you see it, or did you just hear about it?
No, I didn't see. There was a joke. You've been to film festivals. I don't know if you've ever heard, like, there's like a saying that everyone knows.
Yeah.
The saying for Sundance was, when you're waiting in line, waitlisted for something, or you're trying to buy tickets, they're like, oh, I wonder if this is well, you know what is available? Kuso tickets. That was the one movie that people were angry about. They was just too weird. They walked out. They didn't even want their money back because they just didn't want to talk to anybody. They're just like, and
yeah.
I only saw a snippet of it. It looks trippy. So I did not travel all the way to Utah to watch something like that. I watched that in the comfort of my own home. I am curious about it.
A lot of people are saying it made them like physically uncomfortable. It's that level of gross.
Yes.
So if that sounds like your cup of tea, look into Shudder, because you won't just find Kuso on Shudder. You'll find a lot of interesting films like that on Shudder. I have I keep mentioning my cousin who is subscribed to the service and loves it too. So
I have a couple of friends, same thing.
Yeah.
They really like the service. That's really cool. I love the niche that they have to it, specifically that it's just for
And that to me seems like it should be the future of these streaming services. You know, we talk a lot about, Netflix and Hulu or whatever losing these shows.
It's channels.
Yeah, it's just channels.
We've left cable to just do channels in streaming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, you'll pay for ESPN if you like sports, and if you don't like sports, you'll pay for Shudder because you like horror movies.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool alternative to figuring out what content we want to support.
I'm waiting for that one amalgamation. I don't know what the word would be. That one. Aggregate? I don't know what it is. That one person who, when you sign up with them, you get to pick 10 streaming services for the price of one. Dude, let's do it! That's us!
Internet cable boxes. Let's start it.
Right? We're just going back to the history repeats itself.
It's just going to be, technology will be cyclical.
For $49.99, you can pick Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, whichever ones you want.
We're like Lyft inventing the bus.
There we go. Yes. Are they doing that?
Yeah, Lyft Shuttle, I believe it's called.
That's dumber than the red phone. Did you hear about the red phone?
I did hear about the red phone.
We ain't got to. But it's dumb. It's dumb.
So we have arrived to our pick of the week, where we recommend something in media for all of y'all to go out and check out. Art, what are you recommending that people go and watch?
I got two different things. If you're looking for something in theater, depending on where you're at, I believe because of Landline, there's a movie called Band-Aid. I believe it's just in theaters, and this is why the Sundance one's disappointing.
Also available on VOD.
Oh, well, perfect. Then watch it on VOD. That's the one. We had talked about it before with all these releases that come out. That one just gets hidden, and another one gets hidden. But there's a recommendation that I have coming up from Sundance. It is my favorite movie of the year thus far. We'll be talking about it next week. Band-Aid was one that I really enjoyed. So before all these Sundance ones just go under the bus, which is why I think it's crucial to go to some film festivals and enjoy these movies, because I don't think I would even have watched Band-Aid if it wasn't for that. I really enjoyed it, so catch that one if you can. If not, my second recommendation is just a Nolan recap with Dunkirk coming out. Specifically, Memento and The Prestige. If you haven't seen them, I'm jealous of you, and you definitely need to. Yo, what is that?
It's the script.
Oh, I was about to say. I was like, I thought your box set was a Polaroid that can. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's dope.
That should be the collector's edition.
It says rewind. It's a VHS. Memento and The Prestige. If you haven't seen it, do yourself really do yourself a favor and watch it. Memento and The Prestige. Where I don't know if I mentioned it to you. I had this week in high school where I binged all these films. Those were two of them, and it was that week in high school where I had downloaded the IMDb list, AFI's list, all these different lists, and I just binged all this stuff with that subscription. I had a Blockbuster of 2 movies at a time, and those were 2 of the movies from that long week. I always remember that just said I want to go into film.
Yeah.
So those are like really near and dear to me. And if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. If you have seen it, just rewatch them, because we were talking about this hate for Nolan. Remember, it's because of the fans. This man legit is a master at what he does. So for that reason, definitely check those 2 out.
And it's kind of funny to me that his movies like Interstellar, Inception, and The Dark Knight, I think those are the 3 that the fans, like the rabid fans we talked about, really talk about as his best, as his amazing stuff. Memento and Prestige, to me, you can't make a top 2 without including those 2 at the top of the list.
You want to know why? Because you just mentioned his last 3. Right? That's exactly what we're talking about with fans. What do we always say when someone comes, this is my favorite of the year? You just came out of the theater. What are you talking about? Let it
perspective.
No, that's what it is. And you're right. They're naming the last 3. In 10 years, guess what their favorites are going to be? Whatever the last 3 were.
Dunkirk and whatever to follow Dunkirk.
Yeah, so that's why. And I'm not saying that there's anything bad with liking Interstellar or Dark Knight in them. I'm a big fan of The Dark Knight. Not the biggest of Interstellar or Inception, but they're good movies. I'm just saying that I will debate you because Memento is revolutionary and The Prestige will demolish any of the other work. The Prestige is probably my favorite one of his. That's
I have a video that I hate to spoil, but I'll just talk about it a little bit. I've been working on the script phase of that. I think Memento is kind of the ultimate nonlinear film. It's kind of, I think it takes the concept of nonlinear films in the furthest direction that really you can. It justifies its existence, which a lot of nonlinear films fail to do. And it's just sort of so beautifully structured that it both lets you follow along, but lets you see it from the character's perspective. It's such a well-made film. I really love Memento.
It's so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
You can watch it now and be like, "Whoa, why isn't this in theaters?" It's one of those movies that you watch it, and the year is obsolete. Sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, "This is so 2007. This is so whatever." That movie will last forever, forever.
I will say, I watched it again recently. The cell phone notes app would significantly change that movie. Just being able to write things down on your cell phone.
Kind of right. Man's taking a video of himself.
Yeah, exactly. He's vlogging his memory. So maybe modern would have to flip it a little bit, but the concept works. The concept holds.
Yes. Because it would still, I guess, be a period to that time.
Yeah.
But the idea, the concept of it would still hold up if someone were to make it today.
That's a great pick. I can't disagree with that pick. I would recommend checking out specifically Memento and The Prestige, but most of Christopher Nolan's work is totally worthwhile. I'm going to recommend something else on Netflix, though. It's a newer series, a docu-series that a lot of people have been talking about. It's a nonfiction series. So it's called The Keepers. This is a 7-part documentary series that a lot of people have been giving kind of that like Making a Murderer hype, because it's a true crime thing that sort of expands and shows a whole web of deceit and conspiracy. It's different than Making a Murderer in a lot of ways, but I think the main difference is that in Making a Murderer, you get all of this hard evidence about one situation. It reflects a wider scenario, but there's these bombshells that happen in Making a Murderer that center around a piece of evidence which just are jaw-dropping. I think Keepers doesn't necessarily give you that same type of experience. It's less thrilling, although thrilling feels like the wrong word to use here. It's a lot more heady. It's a lot. You're in your head a lot more because it involves lying and deceit and priests who are abusing children and using their status as a priest to sort of talk about it being right. And it's a lot. It's really it gets into some very, very uncomfortable areas that it just with corruption in some churches and this church working with the local police, but it's a really necessary story and shows just the incredible work of these women who went to school and were taught by this nun, Sister Kathy, and couldn't get over the murder of Sister Kathy when they were in school. So they've spent all their time in the years since then just tracking down details, talking to people, and trying to figure out the details of this case. It's a really, really stunning story. And if you like true crime, you absolutely have to check out that documentary series.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I was able to finish it. It's not. It doesn't necessarily give you a super satisfying conclusion the way that I think a lot of these true crime things do, just because, what they're doing is a lot of times looking at cases where there wasn't justice. But you definitely...
The journey
still is worthwhile. You learn a lot, and I think you get a really interesting perspective, and you meet some just amazing characters. The characters in this thing are really what make it so memorable. Just these older women who are who won't take shit and call down, everybody who's even somewhat associated with the murder. It's a really, really fascinating story. So yeah, definitely check out The Keepers on Netflix.
All right, cool.
So that does it for this week's episode of the Intercut, episode 5. Thank you for sticking with us through 5. We will get to some questions on the next episode, so hopefully you can leave us some in the comments, and we'll be asking for those on social media throughout the week. It's been a lot of fun doing this with you, Art.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter @ZShevich or on Instagram also @ZShevich, and check out my YouTube channel, Multiplex Show. I'll be posting some stuff about the Oscars this upcoming week. Art, where can people find more from you?
Well, besides the Intercut, you can go over to www.youtube.com/The A to Z Show, or go to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and try to do better on social media. I don't really post that much, but I'm a pretty private person. But it's time to whore myself out there and make sure that I post on a daily basis, because that's the social media world that we live in. But I do have a couple of other videos. I have a bunch lined up, like all these ideas, scripts written. This is all about recording them and editing them and getting them out in time.
Yeah, who has the
subject
time?
Is still, while the subject is still trendy in a sense, because you really want to get into the discussion of it. But a bunch of cool videos that I'm working on. Some you may see on my channel. Go over there and let's just discuss movies. Pick a video that you like. If you don't care for it, skip over another one and pick one that we can have a discussion about if you're interested in that topic.
So you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find new episodes of the Intercut every Tuesday at noon Eastern, and we'll be updating throughout the week with some shorter clips, clipping out our topic of the week and other stuff. So always worth checking out on the channel. We may even get into a little bit of Game of Thrones talk. I don't know what your weekend's looking like. So.
It's looking like we're going to have some Game of Thrones talk.
So please be sure to look out for that. Also, like our Facebook and Twitter pages, as well as our Instagram @IntercutPod, for all of those across the board for updates throughout the week. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, everybody's trying to get an Emmy. I'm just interested in Demi Lovato.
Oh. That's funny.
Yeah.